Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm the instructor Alejandro Guzman. I will frequently upload topics about software development, program languages, database, and much more. All my course completely free. Remember to subscribe to my channel and activate the bell to receive notifications when I upload new videos. So, see you soon.
Now the same command can be used very easily in the following way. For example, there are some variants. We can use the variant of the symbol $, and the variant 0. How to use the symbol $? The symbol $is used so that everything I want to copy the paste at the end of the document, and the 0 is used so that everything I want to copy and paste it at the beginning of the document. And the syntax is exactly the same as the one we saw at the moment. Colon, initial line, we said that it was line 4, comma, 6, that is line 4, line 6, space, CO in lowercase. If I say $, as they see it on the screen, these contents will be copied at the end of the document, and if I say 0, the content is copied at the beginning of the document. Observe what happens when you press enter. The content has been left at the end. Now we go again to the beginning of the document where we had the data, and we are going to repeat the command. Note that it doesn't matter which line the document I locate. I can be here on line 5, and here I can execute the line mode. Colon 4, comma 6, space, CO, space, 0. The 0 we said that will allow us to copy these contents at the beginning of the document. Note what happened when you press enter. Those lines 4 and 6 pastes to the beginning of the document. Let's see now how to use cut and paste, so that is to say, to move lines of some of those that we have in the screen to other position of the document, but from the command line. That is to say, without moving from the current position where we are. For example, we are going to take line 4 to line 6 of this document, and we will move it to line 8. So how do we do that? We enter line mode, colon, 4, comma, 6, and we use MO. MO to say move. And we set from which line I want this to move. For example, if I write line 8, it means that is it this last line that we have here on the screen. We are going to move these 3 lines below this line with this command. Press enter and note that B says already moved these 3 lines. Well, we are going to undo this change, and we are going to do the process again, but this time we are going to tell you to copy all these lines, move them, copy, paste, and cut these lines at the beginning of the document. Then we use the same. We enter line mode, colon, we select line 4, comma, line 6, space, MO to say move, and we say 0. Then it means that lines 4, 5, and 6 are going to be moved to the beginning of the document, and we give enter. Then observe the effect. In the example, we can also undo the change with U, and we will do the same but at the end of the document. Then we use the command line mode, colon, 4, comma, 6, space, NO, and the $ symbol. Remember that $ symbol is to tell you to paste the contents, cut it and paste it at the end of the document. Pressing enter observes that the lines were moved. In this way, we have seen how the buffer is used to copy and paste range of lines from the command mode as well as the line mode. Another useful way to cut and paste is to use the buffer, and this is done in command mode. For example, we are going to do an exercise where we are going to cut these 3 lines that you see on the screen, those that are numbered 1, 2, and 3, and we are going to eliminate the content. Then remember that to delete content, we use the dd command. If I want to erase these 3 lines, the easy thing is to type 3dd. A text message appears that says that there are already 3 lines less, that is, they were deleted. Then we are located in the part of the document where I want to take that content. For example, if I want to bring up the contents of the delete buffer, I simply press P or P in uppercase. Remember that the P is to paste the contents of the buffer, and in this case the buffer contains something that I delete, not so much something copied, but something that I just delete. So if I pulse P in lowercase, B brings the contents of the buffer below the line in which I am. And if I press the capital P, it brings the content of the buffer over the current position of the document. In this way, we can use the delete buffer to copy and paste. Let's see some examples where we will see how to use and how to recover the deletion buffer several times, each time the dd command is used to erase lines, either 1 line or 2 lines or many more lines. All this information is stored in numerical buffer. It means that we have the buffer numbered from 1 to 9, so that we can undo or recover that information automatically. Then every time we use the dd command to delete 1 or more lines. There is the possibility of recovering the information if necessary. Then the vEditor has 9 boxes to store the last 9 deletion actions that we will perform. The last action is always stored in buffer 1. It means that if I want to recover the last thing I deleted, it will be in buffer 1. And so on until buffer number 9. Now let's do an exercise. Let's do the following. Let's go over this line and I'm going to erase it. For example, I'm going to erase this, dd. Now I'm on the next line and I delete it, dd. Now I'm at the top of the document and I delete this line, dd. And I can go down and delete this line. Note that I have made several deletions. An option that we saw originally was to use the U command progressively to recover the contents, but if what I really want is to recover the contents in the current position where I am, then we are going to use the numeric buffer. How is the numeric buffer used? Observe the syntax. We are going to press quote the number of the buffer that I want to recover. For example, I want to recover the buffer 1, which was the last thing I deleted, and the letter P. And so I can do with the buffer 2, for example, quote P. For example, buffer 2 P, quote buffer 3 P, quote the buffer 4 P. And in this way, we can recover the deletion buffer and paste the contents in the position that we want from our document. Let's see a very interesting topic: editing multiple files using the vEditor. These are some of the commands that we will see below. Basically, we can manipulate multiple files in the vEditor, and we can even share information, copy and paste information from one file to another. Let's see some examples of how these commands are used. For this demonstration, I have prepared a group of files that we have apps to edit all these files together. Let's first check out our file list to see what files are available on our server. This is our list files. Then we will use the vEditor accessing all these files at the same time. See how the command is typed to access all the files at once. We use v space and simply put the max of files that we want to bring. When you press enter, note that once the first file appears, the other files are not visible yet, but they are already loaded in the editor. Let's see some examples of how we can validate what files we have and how we can move through these files. The first thing is to know which files were the ones that we loaded in memory. In this case, we are going to use a command that is written in the following way. We enter line mode, colon, and use the command args, and we give enter. To see the last line of the screen where the list of files that we have edited appears. In this way, we know that we are located in the first file. The first file is called demo.all.txt. Note what name is enclosed in brackets, and other files appear in the list. These are all the files that we can edit at this moment. All the operations of copying, deleting, moving data, everything we have seen in the vEditor to use the buffering tools is applied to all the files, and you simply have to navigate through each of these files in order to copy and paste the information you want. Now, how do we move to the next file? For that, we are going to use a line command that is the n command of next, and it is done in the following way. Note that it is located on the file demo.all.txt. We enter the line mode, colon, n, and enter. And note that we are already in the second file. Let's show the files that we are editing with args, and note that we have the demo.c file, at this time in the focus. In this way, you can use the command colon n every time you want to move from one file to the next, and notice that I can easily move through the list of files. I'm already in the dir file. In this way, we use the n command to move forward and edit the next file in the list. Once we have reached the last file in the list, we cannot continue using the next command, because in this way there is no next file to edit. Look at our list of files. Let's type the command args again and note that I am located in the last file. If I try to use the next command again, notice what happens. :n, and B indicates that I cannot pass after the last file. Then I've reached the last row, the last file I'm editing. Once we have reached the end of the file list, see what happens. We are using args and we are in the last file in the list. If I wanted to return to the previous file, we will have to use the prep command. See how I return to the previous file. We enter line mode again and use prep and enter. Automatically, he will show me the file on which I am, in this case the previous one. In this way we can use prep repeatedly to return to the file we want to edit in our list of arguments. If I want to go to the first file at once, we can use the first command. In line mode, :first, and enter, and B goes to the first file in the list. Notice that I am in the first file in the list of arguments, and if I want to go to the last file from the list, for example jab2demo.txt directly, I use the command line last, and we give enter. And notice that I am already in the last file in the list. In this way I can use the command next, previous, first, last to move quickly on the list of arguments where I can have many files. We are going to see some considerations with the use of the commands end, prep, first, and last that we have just seen. When you make modifications to a file, these commands that we have just seen may give you error message because you have not saved the file. For example, let's make a change about this file and you will see what happens. Let's add some text. And I will try to use the next command. Note that I have not saved. I exit the insert mode and I will try to execute a next command to show the next file in the list. Observe what happens. B is warning me that I have not saved the change, and if I want to omit this change, then I must use the symbol of aberration. This is a consideration that applies to all the commands we have just seen to move through the list of the files. So, if I do not want to save but go directly to the next file, that is, ignore the change, then I can use :n and add the exclamation mark, as you see on the screen, and watch what happened. Press enter. I am automatically in the second file of the list and simply the change that I have made to the file has been lost. Then observe, I'm going to return to the first file again. :prep, and note that the script is intact. it was not modified. Then remember, it is always important that when you make a change to any of the files you are editing, you must use the W command to save, and in this way move freely through the leaks of the arguments. If you want to discard any change, then you use the exclamation mark, and that's the way the changes are omitted. Let's see a practical example in which I will show you how to use copy and paste through multiple files. Then remember what we saw in the previous session, where you can use the buffer and we can save information in the buffer from A to Z. And in this way use them in any of the files that we are editing. For example, note that here I have several files in the list. I'm going to copy this line of text that is in this file on which I am located, and I'm going to copy it to pass it to a file number 4 that I have in the list of 4. So remember that it's simple what we have learned. We are going to use the buffer A, and in that buffer I'm going to paste that line that we are observing on the screen. The buffer are used as A, and I copy this line, Y, ready. And that line was in the buffer A. Now I move freely to the file that I want. For example, this file in C language. I pass to this other file, which is a text file, and I pass to this other file, which is another file in PHP. And here I can simply locate where I want, and in this position I will paste the content of the buffer. Remember that we access the buffer again with quote buffer A and letter P. And note that I have the contents of the buffer A and I have pasted it in this file. Now just what I have to do now is record that information with W, and in this way I can continue using the list of arguments to scroll through the files. I'm going back to the first file and notice that I am already in the first file again. In this way I can use all the commands that we saw of copying and pasting, or even those to move, to be able to copy and paste in different pieces of code from one file to another, and thus not having to type all the information. In this way, you can work on multiple files. Let's now see some commands from the V editor, which will allow us to temporarily exit the editor and execute operating system commands. This means that we will not lose our edition. On the contrary, we can leave temporarily and our file remains in memory, and then return once we do the tasks that we need in the operating system. The first command that we will see to temporarily exit V is the sh command. This command is used from the line. Let's see an example. We are going to enter the editor V, we will bring a test file, and on this file we will perform the operation. So, as I was telling you, while inside an edited file in the V editor, we can temporarily exit to the operating system. How do you do this? First, we enter the line mode, for example, colon, and here simply type sh and enter. Observe what's happened. When you press enter, it returns to the operating system. That does not mean that you have lost the file, but the file is still in memory. Here I can execute any command of the operating system and simply use the operating system when I want to return. All I have to do is type the command exit to exit the operating system and return to the editor. Observe, exit, enter, and I am still working with my file. Maybe I can do it again and again. It doesn't matter if the file is modified or not. For example, if I insert a blank line and it turns out that I want to go to the operating system, I simply go into the line mode. Note that I have not saved the file. When we type sh enter, and he will simply tell me on a sign that tells me be careful that I have not saved the change. However, it allows to leave the operating system, and again here I can execute the command that I want, and once I execute, I can return to the operating system. I can change my directory, show the date, execute any command typical of the operating system in which you are working, and then return to the editor B, and B remains exactly where we are. Then notice that I'm again in the file and I can simply execute the action that I want on my file. I can save or delete. And in this way temporarily leave the editor B to do some activity. Let's see now a variant of the sh command to exit to the operating system and execute a specific task in the operating system. We will enter our test file, and on this file we will perform the exit operation. Unlike the sh command that we saw earlier, we are going to use the following command this time. We enter the line mode with colon and execute the exclamation symbol. Then we write the operating system command that we want to execute. For example, if I want to run the operating system shows the date, we execute date and enter. Observe what happens. B shows a message where the command is executed, and at the end it tells me that I press enter to go back to the B editor. This means that I momentarily left B, execute the command, and now when finished executing the command, simply B asks me to return with enter. Enter and we continue in the position that we were. You can also edit your file. You can continue editing, and when you press escape, colon, exclamation, and execute a command. For example, now let's execute the directory listing. Note that he shows me the contents of the directory, and B asks me to press enter to return to B. When I press enter, I am again in B and simply execute the task in the operating system. Let's see now a variant of the exit command to the operating system, which will be very useful for pasting the contents of the command that is executed. We already saw that the command sh allows us to temporarily exit the operating system, execute some activity, and that the exclamation commands allow us to directly execute a command on the operating system. Now, what we want is that this result, those data that are displayed on the screen in the resulting command, are incorporated directly into our editor. In this way, we do not have to copy and paste from the operating system, but simply through a command we bring the result. For example, we will enter our demo file, and on this file we will do the example. Then I'm going to locate on this part and I'm going to execute the next command. Colon, and here comes the variant. We have to indicate the dot to tell me to paste the command that I'm going to type next. Dot is part of the syntax, and now the exclamation mark to execute the command. Next, I put the command of the operating system that I want to execute. For example, write date. Observe the syntax, dot, exclamation, date, and the command that we want to execute. Pressing enter, observe that B has gone to the operating system, execute the command, and the result hits me in the document. In this way, we are executing a command on the operating system, and the result is incorporated into the current document that I am working on. Let's see another example. I'm going to undo this change, and for example, I have a file that contains some HTML sentences. and I want to paste it here on where I am at this moment. Then we will create a new line, and on this line we will execute a command that will bring me the information of that file that I have in the operating system. Then we enter line mode, colon, exclamation, and for example I do a cat. A cat command of the operating system allows me to show the file contents, and I'm going to tell B to bring me a file called tempo. So call my file and it contains some lines. Press enter. He goes and brings me the file tempo, and that file contains some lines in HTML and incorporate them directly into my file in B. Then note that I already have some new lines typed, and here I can simply edit my contents. In this way, this command allows us to execute a command in the operating system and return the response as part of the document contents of my file in B. A special consideration to take into account for the execution of command from the V editor consists of errors, messages, and mistakes. When you make a mistake with the command that you are launching, this is reflected in the editor. For example, if you try to read a file or execute a command the operating system does not exist, this you will see in the result, the editor B. That is to say that the command dot exclamation that we just saw, if the command doesn't work, the result is the standard error output of the operating system. The V editor has a series of parameters defined by the user in order to facilitate the edition of text. In this way, the parameters can be defined. We can do it through the current session of the editor V. It means that while you are using the V editor on the screen. These parameters will work correctly, but when leaving the editor, these parameters will be modified and will return to their default parameters. We can also define parameters in a fixed way, and for this we will have to create a file whose name will be .exrc. It is a standard parameterization of the V editor. This parameter file can be located in the path that is specified in the lower part of the screen. We are going to see some examples in which we are going to use local configuration, that is to say, only while we use the editor. And also you will learn to use the file .exrc to facilitate the configuration in the V editor. To analyze how the parameters works within the V editor, I have prepared a file. And with this we are going to work on several of the configuration examples of the V editor. The first parameter that we are going to see is the parameter IA. The parameter IA allows to make autocorrections. You can use it to do orthographic correction as well as to make abbreviation of the text you want to write. For example, let's create a IA abbreviation so you can see how it works. Then we enter line mode. We write IA space and place the text you want to write. For example, you can put view space and put what is the autocorrection. For example, that the right viewport complete. And that's it. Press enter. Already in this way we have auto-configured the autocorrection. It means that the next time I describe the word view, it will automatically replace it with viewport. Watch the example. I'm going to add a line, and this line I'm going to write the word view. Observe what happens when I press space. Automatically, B autocorrects the word. This way, when you type, he automatically makes autocorrections. Another of the command that we can use is very similar to this. It is the Aberration Parameter. The Abbreviation Parameter is very similar and basically allows a text to be written quickly, replacing the original text. For example, let's set up an abbreviation. We use the parameter in the line mode, we enter colon, we write AB, which is the name of the parameter, and we are going to write a text. For example, I'm going to write email and space. And this means that every time I write email, I want you to take it as an abbreviation and write the complete mail completely. For example, email, I will write some mail here. We lack the complete syntax, but here we go for the example. And then observe what happens when you press enter. I have defined that the abbreviation is going to be called email. Now let's test. Let's create a new line, and here observe what happens when you write email and space. B automatically completes the configured text string. That is, it makes me the equivalent of the abbreviation, and so I do not have to type much more. This is very useful, especially when you use it in programming. You can put some abbreviations or autocorrections for syntax or the commands that you use frequently in your favorite programming language. As I told you, all these changes will be lost as soon as I leave the editor B. Later, we will see how we make those modifications to the parameters are fixed through the file .exrc. We continue to see some parameters that are very useful. For example, the tab stop. And we are talking about the set parameters in general. The tab stop is the tab stop. What for? So that when you are inserting text and press the tab key, you define what is the size of the tabulator. By default, in the operating system, the tab stop is fixed in 8 columns. For example, I will create a new line and observe what happens when you press the tab key. B jabs 8 spaces. Suddenly, this is too much, and I want the tab stop to be set shorter. For example, as it looks in the file that I have, the tab stop is set to 2. We enter line mode, colon, and use the following set command to indicate that it is a parameter tab stop. This is the code of the parameter, in this case the tabulator key. Equal, and we place how many columns that tab stop has. So if we want 2, we type 2 and enter. Automatically, the tab stop has been configured with 2 columns. Let's try it. We indicate insert and observe what happens when I press tab. B moves 2 columns. In this way, the set tab stop is configured. Another very useful command in the V editor is the numbering of lines. Then we can have large files and display the line numbers on the left, but this line number is not part of the document. We are going to configure the line number. This file, as you can see, has several lines, but I don't know now exactly what number of lines where I'm located. So what I can do is temporarily activate a parameter so that the bin shows me the numbering of lines. It is done in the following way. We enter line mode, colon, and place set number, and enter. The lines appears numbered and will be with a different color to the content. In this way, we can visualize the line numbers. When you scroll over the file, you will continue to see the line numbers of the lines on which you are moving. This is very useful when you use line marks, as we saw earlier, and can copy blocks of line by their line numbers. If you do not want to see the numbers of lines, we can deactivate edit in the following way. We enter again on line mode, and you say set no number, enter, and B takes away the line numbers. As I told you, all these parameters works as long as I do not leave the V editor. If I want them to remain by default, we will see later. Let's continue to see more set parameters that can be configured in the editor. For example, we can use the set show mode command so that B informs us if it is in which mode. Remember that B does not have many menus, nor does it have many visual options. Then, the set show modes allows B to show what state it is in. This applies, for example, to when you are doing a text replacement or a text insertion. See the example. When I am in the editor B and I press, for example, the I key, note that insert appears in the lower part. This is the way it should be. In this case, it tells me that I am in insert mode. By pressing escape, we exit the insert mode. We can now show this text message, and for that we use the command set no show mode in the following way. For example, colon set no show mode, enter, and automatically B removes the message. Observe. If we use I again, type I, we are already in insert mode, but note that no text appears in the last line on the screen. Then, in this way, observe that B does not show in which mode I am, avoiding showing this type of message in the last line of the script. If you want to activate this message again, you can use the set show mode command as follows: colon set show mode, enter. The display mode has been activated. Then note that if you press letter I, the insertion message appears again on the last line. The next B parameter that we are going to see is the differentiation of uppercase and lowercase letters. By default, when you enter B, B is in mode to differentiate uppercase letters. So, for example, if we make a search for the word quiero, note that by pressing enter, he tells me he cannot find the pattern quiero. However, here's the word quiero appears in capital letters. To make B ignore uppercase, lowercase letters and search without needing to differentiation them, let's see the set ignore case command how it is executed. So basically we say colon set in Lowercase. Just as you see it on the screen, and when you hit enter, we have changed the parameterization of B, and now any word that I look for, it doesn't not matter if you write it in uppercase or in lowercase. B can be found. So let's repeat the sample again. Let's look for the word quiero and notice that B is located on the word unfinished. So this in uppercase or lowercase doesn't matter. For this, set in lowercase is used. Now, if I want to return the command and leave it as it was previously, that is to say, it is case sensitive, basically we execute the following instruction: colon set no in lowercase. Already with this, B is going to differentiate between uppercase and lowercase. Let's go back to the search we were doing, /quiero, enter, and observe that B again indicates to me that he does not find the word I want. This is the use of uppercase and lowercase in B using the set in lowercase parameters. Let's see now another very useful parameter command in the B editor. It is the self-indentation. This is very useful in programming language, so that as we type the text and press enter, the indentation will be preserved in the next line. By default, B is configured with auto-indentation disabled. Watch the example. When I, for example, create a new line with O, note that insertion mode goes to the first column, and in this way it's necessary to type spaces several times to get to where I want to locate to type the text. Then we will learn to use the auto-indentation mode so you can see how it is used. Basically, we have to go back to the command line and use the set auto-indent command, just as you see on the screen, and press enter. The self-indentation parameter has already been defined. Then observe, when I'm going to insert a line, I'm going to press the letter O, mean lowercase, then B is located below the first equivalent text column of the previous line. In this way, self-indentation is activated, and here I can type the text that I want and we will be in that position. If I press enter, the cursor automatically drops to the next line below the initial column and I will be able to type the text. Now, how we disable the auto-indentation? Basically, we use the line command colon set no auto-indent and enter. In this way, when we insert a new line, B will go back to column number 1 of the next line. This was the auto-indentation command in B. Let's see now a useful command for paragraph of text in B. It is the command wrap margin. What is wrap margin used for? Wrap margin allows you to define the number of columns to make automatic line adjustment. For example, I'm going to type a text here, and this text observes what happens when I reach the right margin. Voy a digitar un texto de corrido y alcanzamos el margen derecho. This happens because I have configured a wrap margin of 30. and as I telling B to respect the last 30 columns, and automatically I adjust the lines. How do we remove the wrap margin? Basically, we enter line mode and use the command set wrap margin equal 0. And in this way, when you type this text, you will no longer consider the right margin. For example, voy a digitar un texto de corrido. And note that you cannot write to the word length and width of the page, and only when we reach the right margin, B goes down to the next line. Let's go back to the example and let's put a margin 30 again, so you can see the effect. Set wrap margin equal 30. Enter. And we will type the text again. And note that I am typing the text, and when I get to 30 columns from the right to the left, automatically B will move the word so that it does not stay split. In this way, the wrap margin is used in B. Another very useful command in B is the set show match command. What does the set show match do? Allows B to identify any opening and closing of parentheses or brackets when you are typing in some programming language. I prepared the following example so you can see how to set show match works. You basically use set show match, just as you see on the screen. When enter, is left configured. I'm going to add a line to this text and observe the effect. We are going to finish this code here and observe what happened when I press the bracket closure. The effect we'll see on the screen. Notice that B temporarily moved the cursor and marked where the bracket began, and this way gives us an idea of what is happening with your brackets. The set show match is very useful in programming. Let it off again so you can see the effect. Set no show match. And note that when I add a text and place the closing bracket, B is still in the same position and did not show the beginning of the bracket.